tardes. Thank you very much for being here with me. And obviously, very felt thank you to Dr. Rosa Guzman and to all my colleagues in my department. Thank you for being here. And obviously, thank you very much to all of you for rallying about these activities. If we do these activities, it's because we believe that these are helpful, that these are really beneficial to all of you. And sorry, I don't want to forget, I'm sure there are people online via Teams who are following this presentation, so thank you for being here too. That is certainly important. And today's presentation is on this book, Stolen Focus. And I always like to bring the book, my own copy, to the presentations and to share the book with you, with the audience, because I want you to have the chance to actually handling the book, to have a glance at the book, to look into the book, to have a feeling as to what this book is all about, and maybe, hopefully, perhaps, you will feel the need to actually go online and buy the book. So let me share this to you all.
I just did.
And yes, remember that this presentation is being recorded at the time, and all the other presentations are available on the COEM's YouTube channel online. You can follow the instructions that are on the online, and you have access to all the presentations. I'm sure that some of the presentations will be really useful to you. They will all be useful to you. Some of these presentations deal with how to prepare a resume, how to deal with intercultural situations, you name it, anything that has to do with communication, with professional communication. I'm sure that you will find more than enlightening all of the presentations. And let me go right into the actual presentation. If it decides to actually open, there we go. One more thing before I forget, where is the clicker? Sorry, but we came into the room a bit late, and I didn't have time to actually have everything actually ready for you all. Here we go. Here we go. I need a clicker, otherwise I've got to go manually, and that's not doesn't look very professional. Okay, here we go. Few seconds. And again, that's the cover of the book, Stolen Focus by Johann Hari. Hopefully this will work. I have to turn it on, otherwise it will not. There we go. So, I always like to start with why this one? Why this particular book? What is it so special about the book? Maybe there's nothing special about the book, but I always like to ask, why not? It's a book full with information, with pertinent, important information. Whether we agree or not with the author and the gist of the book, still it's got very pertinent, important information, and from that point of view, everything which is professionally prepared, which is scientifically configured, is really something that it's worth our looking into. Certainly, also because it's, I've got to admit, it's also part of my own personal interest, topics of interest. How we concentrate, how we do not concentrate. It's something that probably also affects me, and from that perspective, it's certainly important, I think, to actually talk about this book. And lastly, because being unable to remain focused on one thing, on one person, on one task, is going to affect how we interact with other people. It's going to affect how we handle ourselves in our classroom, in our job. from that particular point of view, this book does link directly to what we do, to what we cover in COEM in our classes. So pick your own particular reason, but you've got 3. Anyone will be more than enough for us to actually want to read this book. Very quickly about the book and the author. It's 2022, so it's right out of the oven. 284 pages. It's got an introduction, 14 chapters, and a conclusion. The author, Johann Hari, he writes for the New York Times, Le Monde, The Guardian. So that is a telltale sign that really he is an important author, because he writes for these world-class papers around the world. He's offered TED Talks. I haven't yet offered any TED Talks, so from that particular point of view, he really deserves our talking about him. And sorry about that. That was my. There we go. Okay. He's interviewed researchers, philosophers, dietitians, neurologists for the research into the book. And that is one of the things that really surprised me about the book. I thought it was going to be simply from the technological point of view, talking about the internet and about the cell phones and the like. He does talk a lot about that, but he does also touch upon other topics which have to do with being able or being unable to remain focused on something. But I didn't expect that, and I do believe that is part of the merit of the book. All right, so let's go a bit further into the presentation. And I'm going to ask you to maybe bring out your cell phone, your notebook, whether paper or electronic, something to write with. Yes, do. Please do bring out cell phone, pen, pencil, paper. Yes? Yes, everybody, even Roberto. Because I'm going to we're going to have a test. Oh boy. You weren't expecting that, were you? No. All right, okay. So this is going to be a pre-test and a pre-text for a pre-test. That's kind of a mouthful, okay? And towards the end of the presentation, we'll come back to these questions, and you will be able to compare. You will be able to see how focused you were on the presentation. Okay? All right, okay. So, first question. All right. Okay? How long do you think today's teenagers like yourselves, how long do you think you can remain focused on one task? Say 30 seconds, 50 seconds, 60 seconds, 65 seconds. Think of yourselves and write down. Okay? You've got a 25% chance of actually getting the right answer. Statistically, at least. How about this other question? How much sleeping time do we enjoy over the last century? A plus 10%, a minus 20%, plus 30%, or a minus 40%. Consider yourselves. Do you have more sleeping time on a regular basis? Less sleeping time, maybe? This is a no-brainer, actually, but okay. Ultra-processed food, do they lack key brain nutrients? What do you think? Yes? No? So we're talking about, potato chips and pizzas, frozen pizzas, things, that kind of food. How about this one? Also a very easy one. Intrinsic motivation. Does it help you focus more, less? What do you think? Intrinsic motivation. You really do want something because you do want it. Does it help you? You want to buy a new car. Does it help to look for a new job? For you to have a new car, to be able to buy a new car? Again, that's an easy one. Scary environment. Today's society. You read the papers, you watch the news on the TV, everything is peaceful, good news, right? But on the contrary. So scary environments, they lead to hypervigilance. Does that lead in turn to sleep deprivation, fattening, monotasking? What do you think? The ambient reasons for the increase in ADHD and the deficit disorder in children. Is it because playtime inside versus outside? Because of wrong diet? Because of misalignment between how people like to learn and how we are taught at school? What do you think? And finally, is multitasking, with that prefix, multitasking, a misnomer? Is that the wrong way to call that thing, multitasking? Is it wrong to call it that way? Yes, no. Okay. So throughout the presentation, we'll see the answers to these questions. At the end, we'll come back to these series of questions in a post-test, and we will see how well you managed to focus on the presentation. All right? Okay. So obviously, this is an exercise on the topic at hand. All right. Executive summary. I always like to provide the audience with an executive summary, because this is what I want you to keep in mind today, in a week's time, in a month's time, in a year's time. Maybe a year's time is too much to ask for, but okay. If nothing else in the presentations, let's see if at least you can keep this in your mind down the line. All right? Okay. So that is the gist, that is the topic, the quiddity of the book. Focus keeping is on decline. That's the main thesis in the book. And of course, the author talks about the whys. Why does that happen? Obviously, he also talks about some of the consequences. And obviously, it also deals with some of the possible solutions. Okay? Those are the three legs around the topic the book is all about. And when he comes to the whys, he does talk to us about tech companies, the cell phone technology. Again, that was what I thought pretty much everything in the book was going to be about. Boy, was I wrong. He does also touch on diet, on food, on nutrients, and even pollution. Imagine. Okay? Obviously, he does present us with some other possible, let me drop the possible, with some other reasons why our ability to focus on something is on decline, but these are the three main ones, at least from my point of view. As to the consequences, less sleeping time, we behave more sluggishly throughout the day, we feel more tired, dozy, okay? And of course, again, the attention deficit disorder, and some of the solutions that he somehow offers throughout the book. The 10-minute rule, we'll come back to this later on. I'll explain what that means. Pay-per-use social media, like pay-per-use cable TV, was same, likewise, pay-per-use social media. Stop the surveillance society. Talk about China. Pre-commitment, we'll come back to this. And all the fuss about the processed and ultra-processed food. So that is, again, in essence, the core of the book, the whys, the consequences, and some of these solutions. If nothing else, you retain this, if you focus on this particular slide, and you retain these words, these ideas in your head, in a month's time, I'll be more than happy. Okay. So, let me start by. So he says that our ability, the human ability to focus on something is on decline. Well, if that is not true, everything in the book falls apart, goes down the drain. So is he right? Well, I looked for information on the net, and boy, did I find plenty of information, paper articles, peer-reviewed articles, scientific research about this particular topic. I'm not going to go into these clippings as such, but I just want to show you how varied a plethora of information there is on the net with regards to the topic. Okay, your ability to focus is a limited mental resource, so we better use it cleverly. Why can't we pay attention anymore? Coming back to the very same idea behind the book. Brief diversions vastly improve focus. That is something important, and we'll come back to this in a sec. Okay. Focus and concentration is kind of a pun, right? Focusing on concentration. The brain fog, also that's another moniker to talk about our disability or lack of ability to actually focus on something. Oh, this is fun. Boy, isn't this? When I stumbled upon this, I really felt a bit humiliation, because I can't believe that a goldfish has a bigger ability to focus than we. But then I thought, well, I mean, how many things do goldfishes have to really focus on, worry about? Food, another predator, and that's about it, right? So 2 things, say 3 things. How many things do we humans have to be concerned with in our daily lives? Quite a few, far more than 3. Whether the car is running smoothly, how much transit is on the roads, shall I get on time to the class, will I enjoy the presentation? Well, that's a given, of course you will.
That's right.
That's right. I mean, so very many things that we humans have to worry about, and if our mental ability to concentrate is very limited, as we saw in some of the papers, obviously, statistically at least, our ability to concentrate has to be smaller, has to be weaker than that of a goldfish. In any case, I found it really humbling, to say the least, that we are less than a goldfish. Anyway, focus on sleep health, talking about focusing, sleeping, concentration. Look at the poor guy. Look at his face. Falling asleep, drifting off. Maybe like some of you here now. Okay. Your brain can take only so much focusing. Okay. So as you can see, they've got plenty full of information, scientific, peer-reviewed, scientifically admitted information that this topic, that this problem, our lack of ability to concentrate, is not just something that he came up with, but something that is really true. Okay. Talking about pollution, contamination, how it affects ADHD. The air pollution may increase the risk of sleep apnea. So as you can see, all these things do confirm, do jive with the main ideas in the book about concentration, diet, sleeping time. Everything is kind of twisted together. All right. So in essence, it does look like, yes, he is right in saying our ability to concentrate is clearly petering out. All right. So if the content of the book is something that everybody knows about, something that is out there on the streets, something that is readily available on the net, what's the point about the book? If it is old known news, why does he spend almost 300 pages to talk to us about something that we already know it is true? Obviously, I think one of the key points in the book is all the interviews, all the key research information that he gathered in order to prepare the book. That's something that clearly is a cogent argument in support of the book. That it is everything, that all the information is available in one book, so we don't have to go looking for different books or different sources of information. Everything is very easily available right there in one book. Okay? And clearly, I think from my point of view, that's something to really congratulate the author about. All right. Now, yes, for those of you who prefer to watch a video on this topic rather than reading almost 300 pages, okay, you have this video, this TED Talk. It's not by the same author, it's another guy, but as I was preparing for this presentation, I stumbled upon this TED Talk, and boy, I don't know whether this guy read the book before he did the TED Talk, but he does pretty much talk about everything that the author of the book says in the book. This guy repeats, this guy talks about. From the diet to the pollution to the ADHD to sleeping time. So if you want to have a audiovisual summary of the book, this TED Talk will probably do it for you. But I'm sure all of you will want to rather actually read the 300 pages in the book, right? Right? No. She's shaking her head. All right, okay. In any case, so let me just go talking about the contents of the book. This is the first chapter in the book. It's about technology, cell phones, how everything in today's technical environment really conspires against us, conspires against us actually being able to focus on one thing, on two things, on three things. Instead, what they are enticing, beguiling us into actually considering very many things, just giving every single thing just a few seconds, because a couple of seconds later a new message, a new email, a new piece of news is on the radar, on the net, and we have to know what is going on in the world, what are the Kardashians doing, because otherwise we are nobody, right? So that is the idea behind this book, this chapter regarding technology. Okay. It's really impossible to be offline, and you happen to be offline, you are a pariah of the society, you are a nobody. You have to have a cell phone, you have to have an account on Facebook, on Twitter. I don't have any, but okay, I am almost nobody. At least I do have a cell phone, okay? Tech allows to reach us faster, and yes, we do have access to everything that is going on in the world, but only for a couple of seconds, because then something else, something new comes to our attention. Okay. And if we are not partaking, if we are not taking part in the social media, again, we are nobody. Okay. How many of you do not have a Facebook account? Let's say, for instance. 1, 2, 3. Okay, more than I thought. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. Good. So we are nobodies. I don't agree with that, obviously, but that's according to. All right. And yes, multitasking. Let me pause that for a couple of seconds, maybe more. Yes, multitasking. He says, well, that is wrong. We are not actually multitasking. We are fooling ourselves. But we are doing is simply doing one thing for 2, 3, 4 seconds, and then we change into some other topic, some other thing, and we cover that for 3, 4, 5 seconds, and then another thing. But we are not actually multitasking in the sense that we are doing several things simultaneously. No. We're simply doing many things for just a few seconds, one, and then the other, and then the other in a line. But not multi, we are simply monotasking. Okay? All right. He talks about the pre-commitment technique. What does that mean with that? Well, okay. Pretty much like when we go to the supermarket. One of the tips that I'm sure you've all heard about in order to prevent us when we go food shopping, to prevent us from buying things that we don't need, or maybe just buying munchies, chocolates by the cash register on the way out. He says, okay, one thing you have to do is make a list of the things that you do need for food at home, and stick to that list. That's commitment. You go with that, I was going to say with that food, you go with that list to the supermarket, to Costco, to Pueblo, and you stick to that list. You will not buy things that you may feel like buying, but that you do not actually need. Again, the classical example, munchies, potato chips, chocolates, that kind of stuff, which is very readily available by the cash register. And as you go to pay for your food, you see the candy bar. You say, that sounds delicious. And you go and you pick up one candy bar or one bag of chips or whatever. Okay? So just the same way that we are advised to have to prepare a list of the food that you need to buy. Make a pre-commitment. You say, okay, today from say my first class is at 7 through 8:30. I am not going to touch my cell phone from 7 to 8:30. No, he's shaking his head. I don't know what that's for what I was saying, but he was shaking his head. Okay. How many of us, I include myself, how many of us do that, kind of show that behavior? You do. Congrats. No, talking about in a classroom. Say, okay, I got the class 7 through 8:20. I am making the commitment. I am telling myself I am not going to touch my cell phone. I'm not going to check emails or Facebook. I'm actually going to turn it off. She does. Never mind. She changed her answer. Right? Well, that's the idea behind the pre-commitment. Okay, the same way we go to Costco with the list of the things that we need, and we stick to that list. 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's it. Likewise, the cell phone. Okay, it's a way of getting ourselves accustomed to doing things orderly. Okay, and the idea, of course, in the book says, if you start today, it's going to be difficult. Tomorrow is going to be a bit easier, and in a month's time, it's going to be second nature. You'll do it without thinking. Right. Pre-commitment. But all right. So let me ask you: when you wake up in the morning, what is the first thing that you do, or the second, or the third, depending on? Anybody? Snoozing the alarm. All right. Okay. You want 5 more minutes of sleep time? Okay. Aha! Checking notification. Go to the cell phone. All right? Even before the coffee or the chocolate or the whatever, checking your cell phone. Okay? How many of us do like him? All right? Okay. We are slaves to the cell phone, right? We are slaves to the cell phone. All right. How long? Anybody wants to answer? How long can you actually go without checking your cell phone? How many seconds? Anybody? Anybody? Rosa?
I can 4.5 hours.
No kidding, that long? Oh, wow, hours.
2:30 till 7 o'clock because I have to
That is
leave.
pre-commitment. You see, that is pre-commitment. Anybody else?
The cell phone stays in my office.
Okay, that's why. That's a good trick, but again, that is the idea. Anybody else?
4 hours.
Miss? 4 hours? You said 4 hours. Okay, that long too. Oh, wow.
At work, I can have my phone.
Ah, okay. So it's not because you refrain yourself from, it's because you have no other chance, no other alternative. All right, okay, but yeah, Miss?
Yeah, give it last like a few hours.
All right.
Depends on what I'm doing.
Depends on what you are doing. All right, okay. And you, sir? Esto, Eliud era, ¿no? Sí. How long do you think you can go without actually having your phone, your cell phone in your hand and actually checking notifications? A few minutes. I think that's pretty much the norm for most of us, right? Again, we are slaves to the cell phone. But let me just go ahead, okay? Go with the flow, okay? We need to be able to avoid, to stay away from distractions. Okay? And in my COEM 3001, sorry about that, I forgot to. In my COEM 3001 sections, I tell my students, let me turn off the volume so it doesn't. I always tell my students, okay, one of the main characteristics of us human beings is that we are social beings. We like to be with other people. We want to feel that we are part of the community. And when we are alone, we make up friends, we make up people. We talk to ourselves. I don't know how many of you have seen this movie, Castaway, with Tom Hanks. Okay, most of you have not. All right, okay, you have the chance to do Tom Hanks. Castaway, he's a FedEx executive, and he's flying on a plane, and the plane has some mechanical problems and goes down into the ocean. And he's the only survivor on a small island somewhere on the earth. And he's alone. He's all by himself, and I don't remember how long he stays on the island, but quite a very long time, several months at least. And one day he finds floating a football ball, okay, a rugby ball, okay, and he picks it up and he makes up that football ball is a person, Wilson. He even names that thing with the name of a person, Wilson. And he talks to Wilson, and he fights with Wilson, and he even almost dies trying to rescue Wilson. Okay? One of the, consider in wars or in the jail, one of the worst punishments that you can undergo is being in isolation. Not just a couple of minutes, days, weeks. How do people manage? They talk to themselves, they make up people. They need to be able to talk, to somehow feel like they are together with some other people. Otherwise, we go crazy. Okay. So even if we are, even in the cases when we are free of distractions, we kind of have the need to make up distractions. Oh, I need to go take care of my dog, or I need to see how the cooking is going, or I need to check the washer, whatever. Okay? We are so used to the interruptions from the cell phone or from other people that we make them up ourselves because we need those interruptions. Okay? And that is not clearly going with the flow. And he talks about Skinner, the famous psychologist Skinner. You know, everybody knows about the Skinner, but what happens nowadays with the cell phones, with Facebook, and with Twitter and Instagram and the like, is pretty much the same thing. the likes, having 1 million friends on Facebook, receiving a like on Facebook is like a reward, and everybody wants rewards. So you receive the likes, you have one more friend today, 1,000,001 friend that you will never know, obviously, never mind. You feel happy with yourself, you continue on the path, you continue on the trend, you continue paying attention to that technology. It entices you, it woos you into staying, remaining with them. That like, that new friend is the reward. And everybody will want rewards, so we stay connected. Let me just move ahead. Aren't we exhausted? Yes, we are, aren't we? Okay. 4, 5, 6, 7 centuries ago, all human activity was ruled by sun up and the sun down. Nowadays we have light, we have television, we have a radio, we have cell phones, so we can be active, we can be up and about 24 hours a day. We are not limited to natural light. We've got artificial light, and therefore we can be up all time long, all day long. Okay. And he said, well, sleep is important. Sleep is important because while we sleep, the mind, our brain makes connections, establishes patterns, mixes the day's analysis, the day's events, all help boost creativity, innovation. The less we sleep, the less productive, the less resourceful we are going to be. And conversely, the more we sleep, the better. Okay. Okay. Even talking about from a more biological point of view, as we sleep, the brain fluid clears off metabolic waste and toxins towards the liver. Okay? So we need to sleep, we need they say, 8 hours of sleep minimum to really be able to function properly during the day. How many of you sleep about on a regular basis? How many of you do actually sleep, say, 8 hours a day? Or a night, actually. You do? Well, boy, lucky you. Okay. How many of you sleep, say, between 7 and 5? 5 and 7. Okay. This past night, I got up at 1 p.m. That was it. That was it. Anyway, half asleep, half awake is like being impaired, like being intoxicated. Imagine that. Okay? Sluggish, as we saw in the executive summary. We need our 8 hours of sleep. Otherwise, this is key. Okay? Many people tend to supplement the lack of sleep with stimulants, with energy beverages and the like. Okay, the author says, forget them. They really do not help. They fool you into believing that you have slept, but they are really useless. And it is something like, I remember some time ago I was watching a program on TV talking about fragrance sprays that we use around the house in order to hide away bad odors around the house. And they said that those fragrance sprays do not actually make the smell better. They simply prevent your nose cells from actually perceiving those smells. So they don't work on the smell, they work on your brain, on your nose cells. So they're really fooling us into believing that the place smells better. It's simply that your nose is not working properly, it's not working as it should. Same thing with these drinks and stimulants and the caffeine. They really only prevent you from being aware that you are tired. Okay? But you are tired. Again, it's simply fooling us all. No more reading, obviously. Okay, he also talks about that because he says, okay, reading is a linear activity. You read one word, then you read the other word. You read one line, one sentence, one paragraph, then the other one. And that takes time. But it is what makes us really understand, makes us really analyze what we are reading. And he says, if you are reading online, you're not going to achieve the same effect. You are reading online, you're going to have a link, and you're going to click on that link, and it's going to take you to another page, another document, and then you are going to see another link. You are going to be jumping around. You are not staying on, you are not remain focused on one reading per se, you are jumping around. The same phenomenon according to the author, okay? And again, talks about multitasking. That's wrong. That's the wrong way to call it. There is no multitasking. It's simply monotasking on different things. First this one, then the other, but not two or more things at the same time. Reading on paper implies triggers analysis, empathy. Okay, when we read what some other person has written, a story, a paper, a research, we empathize, we understand better. We also learn how to cope with the same difficulties that the other person went through. Okay, you need to ponder, you need to think, to delve into the topic long and fully to better understand it. Okay, and again, by reading, you view life through somebody else's eyes. It makes it easier to empathize, to understand, and certainly that is something that links this presentation with our COEM classes. Let me ask you this. How long does it take you to read a book? Yeah, of course, depends on the number of pages. Yeah, I know, but okay. For instance, when do I read? When do I read because I want to, not something that has to do with my department or my classes. Something that I read because it is something that I want to read because I like to read that particular topic. Usually when I go to bed, 5-10 minutes, that is it. How about yourselves? Anybody? Never. Roberto, of course.
I don't watch TV, so I read. I don't watch TV.
I don't either, pero.
Unless it's a baseball game. I can watch a baseball game and read at the same time.
No, you're fooling yourself. Remember, there is no multitasking.
That's an acquired skill.
You cannot be following the game at the same time that you are reading Edgar Allan Poe. So you cannot. All right, okay. So the point is, yeah. Nowadays we are so very attacked by so very many different things around in our daily lives that we really cannot indulge ourselves. We cannot really devote a long time for us to read through a book. It takes time. It takes a very long time. Again, in my particular case, when I go to bed, that is it. That is it. And again, it's 5, 10, 15 minutes. That's about it. And so any book does take months for me to read it through, obviously. There's no other way. Mind wandering, yes. We need to give our brains a rest, a breather. We need a break from time to time. We cannot be, remember we saw earlier that focusing on one thing is a strenuous activity, and we need to give our brains a breather, a respite. Okay. And certainly when we change the topic, when we think about something else, it does, the author says, it does improve our ability to think and to focus. Okay. When we allow mind wandering, we make sense of the world, we make better sense of the world, the author says, we form new connections with further creativity, and we can even, says, Okay, based on what happened yesterday and what happened today, we can make a better prediction of what is going to be happening tomorrow. Okay. Again, mind-wandering. Beguiling technology. Notice what he says. This is a Tristan Harris, a former Google engineer. He says, okay, there are 6 ways in which Google, Facebook, cell phone technology does fool us, trick us into believing, into making us stay on the technology. Okay, they reward you with likes, with new friends. They push you to multitask. Big data knows you better than we know ourselves even. They want to make you angry as you analyze, so you analyze the information less. You don't have as much time and as much will to analyze things properly because you are tired, because you are exhausted with all the other interruptions. They make you feel everybody is also angry because if you read the commentary section in Novo Dia and most papers, all the comments by people are all negative, all criticizing Luma, all criticizing Pierluisi, all talking badly about. Hardly do you find any positive comment. Seems like everybody is really angry at everybody else, actually. Okay. Oh, and the never-ending scroll. Yeah, that's true. I haven't noticed that particular feature of technology. You go to Facebook, you go to pretty much any newspaper, and you can keep on scrolling down and down and down, and you never get to the end. There's always more information. There's always something new, something else there for you to pay attention to. Okay? So you never reach the end. The end of the internet, that doesn't exist. And obviously, the more time you spend online, obviously, the more money those big companies make. They make money by us staying glued to the screen. The moment we turn it off with the computer, the cell phone, they stop cashing in. Okay. Cruel optimism, because there are some authors that say, okay, it all depends on you, pre-commitment. But there are some other authors that says, forget it. Okay, even if you want to, you will not be able to. Okay, because it's a worldwide phenomenon. There is no possibility of one individual actually changing the system. Okay, and he talks about the 10-minute rule, pretty much like the pre-commitment, something like that, very similar. But Ronald Prosner talks about that. Well, if you think you can control yourself, if you think you can actually pre-commit yourself to actually using technology properly, boy, aren't you fooling yourself? Okay, that's the cruel optimism. Okay, it doesn't really happen that way. And he says, okay, what we need to do is banning the surveillance capitalism, and those are words in the book. Surveillance capitalism. Okay, that is that we are being tracked in our daily life by cameras, by our cell phones. China being, of course, the paramount example. They follow you into the bathroom, even almost. Okay, we need to stop that, because otherwise, no matter what you do, no matter how arduously you try to control yourself, the society is the problem, and until we actually stop, the author says, we stop that surveillance capitalism, nothing is going to really be any better. Okay, we need to eradicate negativity, hatred, anonymity. Okay. Let me just go because I know we're approaching the end of the time. We started a bit late, but this is the way things are. Okay. Notice this. Studies show that the less you work, the more efficient you are. And that brought me back to the goldfish. The goldfish only has to worry about food and predators, and that is it. Okay, and so they can, goldfishes, they can be very efficient at those two things, because those are the only two things that they are good at, that they have to worry about. That is not our case. Okay. I wish. Okay. Today is the other thing around. We are tasked with many different things, and we've got to really have our hands on very many different things, and that's why we cannot be efficient with any of those, because there are so very many things that we have to worry about. Okay. Of course, garbage in, garbage out. That works for research papers. Works also for nutrition. If all you eat is garbage and processed, ultra-processed food, you cannot expect your body to really function properly, to function well. You need, the same way that we need good information so our research will be pristine, we need good nutritious information, good nutritious food if we want our body to also work correctly. It makes sense, right? And today's diet, we are very much regular spike. It's regular spikes and crushes, because we we may eat a lot of sugar and things of that nature, and that may fool us, trick us into believing that we are full of energy, but it goes down very quickly. Again, we feel draggish, we feel sluggish. And the pollution, link between pollution and the attention deficit disorder. Again, notice that these are all the things that I pointed out on the executive summary. Again, and the guy in the TED Talk on YouTube also does talk about all these things himself. All right, and let me jump, and let's go back to the test. We did earlier, we did a pre-test. We are now going to do a post-test, and I want you to check how well you did the pre-test. Okay? But so you can produce your sheet with the answers, so you have it, or your cell phone, and let's see how well you did. Okay? How focused you were during the presentation. All right. So that was the very first question, and the answer is 65. How many of you got that one correct? Just by mere chance, or because? No, I know, but was it a good guesstimation? Yeah. All right. Only one person. Vale. All right. Okay. How much sleeping time? All right, okay. How many of you think it's plus 10? You think it's plus? No kidding. Well, maybe your particular case. Okay, according to the book, the answer is minus 20%. Okay? So instead of 8 hours, got like 6 or something like 6.5. Okay? Okay, again, that is a no-brainer. Obviously, that is true. That is, I'm sure everybody got that one correctly. And this one also, most likely, right? Obviously, that's a yes. Okay, when you want to do something because it's something that you enjoy doing, obviously, a scary environment leads to hypervigilance, which in turn leads to the answer being sleep deprivation. I think that's also an easy one to guess correctly. Obviously, the ambient reason for increased attention deficit disorder. How many of you think it's playtime inside? Nobody. How many of you think the correct answer is wrong diet? All right, and the misaligned educational approach. Okay, and the rest? No sabe, no contesta. All right, according to the book, all three. All the answers were on the presentation. Maybe you didn't see them because I went through some of the slides quickly. I didn't really pause, but okay, in any case. And I think we've got one more, right? Yes. Is multitasking a misnomer? That's the wrong way to call it? Yes. Okay. I did point that out quite a few times because we are not actually, the author says, we are not really doing several things at the same time. We may be thinking that we are doing several things at the same time, but we cannot watch the baseball or the whatever game at the same time that we read Barbara Walters. Okay, we cannot. Okay, we do one thing and then we may be doing the other thing, but that is it. If you want to know something more, you've got plenty full of links to the net where you can find good information. And the first one I want to point that out, La Comunicación Jibarizada. That is one of the presentations that I did a few years ago that is available on the COEM's YouTube channel. If you have the chance, do go to that presentation because I do touch upon some of the very same topics that I talked about in the presentation today. And with that, if anybody has any questions, I might maybe able to answer. Yes? If we go by the pure definition, who cannot agree? Because yeah, but when you are driving, your brain is not really actually paying attention to what you are eating. It's actually paying attention to the road. We hope. And did you find something strange in the food? Okay. Yeah, I mean, but yes, I do think in most cases, yeah, I think he is right. We simply do one thing and then we change our focus and we go to a different thing for a few minutes. Okay, yeah. I think for the most part, yeah, I really do agree with him. Maybe that particular case is a bit an outlier, pero good question actually.
Well, it has been tricky because many recruiters actually ask you that's actually a keyword.
You do?
Like, if I multitask, that's actually
well, I mean, it's one of those buzzwords that are very common nowadays because we have to be able, I mean, we're told that we need to be able to do more with less. And therefore, you are required to actually do several things at the same time, to multitask. But are we real? That's the idea behind the book. Are we really doing several things at the same time? Or are we simply doing first this and then the other? Okay. It depends on how your point of view, I guess. But okay. Yeah, good question. Anybody else?
Do you really think like the wrong diet causes like ADHD?
Well, I'm not.
In my house, we're three, and my two brothers have ADHD, but I don't have it, and it's the same diet.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that falls completely opposite my area of expertise. I really cannot. All I can tell you is what the book says and what some of the research that I found on the net says. Establish a link between the food and some diseases or some conditions. I don't dare to say because again, but there are some research, there is some evidence that seems to point towards there being a link. I mean, as a layman, I'd say, yeah, I mean, yeah, if you eat badly, if you eat the wrong kind of food, it makes more sense that you will fall prey to some conditions. Whether or not that, it doesn't mean that there is a 100% fixed, steady link between what you eat and what you are. But if you eat healthy, probably you have a healthier life. If you eat chunky food, probably, I mean, on a regular basis, I'd say that is correct. But again, that is something completely outside my area of expertise, clearly. Anybody else? If not, then thank you very much.
Why should we buy the book?
Why shouldn't you?
Hey, okay. I'll buy the book. I'm sold.
At least keep in mind the executive summary, because I think that does give you a very good encompassing idea of the gist of the book.
Excellent.
Sí, vale. ¿Qué me has dicho?
Que